So the next topic is nested if and else. So you can have an entire if and else block within an if block or within an else block. So you can have this whole ladder that you can form. So let's take an example to better illustrate this. So I have my first if condition, condition C1, then I have instruction I1, then I have another if statement with another condition which has two more statements inside the block, and then I have an else which has a couple more instructions, and this is the closing block for the else, this is the closing block for the if, and this is the closing opening and the closing block for that if. And let's say you have another statement here which is iz. Okay, so if you see here, this is my original if block which starts here and ends here, and within the if block I have another entire if and else block. So this is known as nesting. So let's see how this nesting works. For example, if C1 is false and C2 is true, what are the statements that are executed? You can put a check mark beside each of the statements that are executed. Now here it's given that C1 is false. So since C1 is false, you directly go and execute IZ. Remember, this else belongs to this if. So you really need to be careful with the brackets. So if C1 is false, you're not going to execute the if statement, and it doesn't matter what C2 turns out to be. It's never executed in the first place. Let's take another example where C1 is true, C2 is false. In this case, since C1 is true, you go inside the if block, you execute I1, you evaluate condition 2, and it was said that condition 2 came out to be false. So you skip these two, you execute the else block, and once you're done with the else block, you execute IZ. Now let's take the third variation where C1 is true and C2 is true. Since C1 is true, you enter the if block, execute I1. Now C2 came to be true as well. Since C2 is true, you go inside the if block, you execute IX and IY, and since you have executed the if block, you're never going to execute the else block, and you come out of the outer if and execute IZ. So this is how nesting works.